And I said, no way. I said, no way. We just met the CEO 2 weeks ago in KL.
And it was very big back then.
It was big.
It was very huge.
I said, if this is a scam, it's a very smart scam. What the F just happened?
How much did you throw in just to fight the court case?
It's not only draining financially. When you're fighting a court case, you can't do any business.
Tell me more about that. Like, why did you went there?
And I felt like that was a time I really needed to step up. My success is all to God. The thing about me is this, I only started drinking when I was 27 years old.
Yes.
Before that,
You're not a drinker.
can't drink.
You have a huge following in the Mandarin market, so like how?
Pure hustle.
When you worry, you're fearing about something. You're afraid about the future. But when you pray, or when you surrender yourself to a higher power, then that's where you find hope.
We saw the policies that was being made. We knew 2 years ago actually, that Singapore will lose out to Japan.
John, thank you for coming onto this podcast. So, what we're going to be doing inside this podcast is we're going to be diving deep, okay?
Sure.
This podcast is called Business Buddha, so we're going to just not talk about business, but we're also going to talk a bit about not religion, but more spirituality. And what I want to do is I just want to jump right in, okay?
Sure.
One of the things, I've known you for a very long time, okay? And I always admired that you are able to change from career to career. I think a lot of people, we're very used to thinking where if you really do something, you must stay with it for as long as you can. But what I realize a lot of people do is that they stay along, but they don't know when they should quit or when they should like move things. So when I know you, like you were doing silver, right?
Yep.
I was 18 years old when I know you, and then I still remember you had me a silver bar.
Yep.
And then you went into oil, and then you went into investment, you went into business training, and then right now you are doing crypto, right? So just tell me, like, look at your whole journey. When you look back, right, what made you shift at each moment in time?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me here. So I guess your question is about my timeline and
Yeah.
what did I learn along the way that
Yes.
got me to shift. So a bit about my background is my first career was a financial advisor.
Yeah.
And I got into finance because I was very interested in finance. Although I was studying computer science,
Yes.
I thought that I will be one of those guys who take some of this Microsoft or Cisco certification and
Yeah.
become a programmer. But I read the book Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I decided I want to get into finance. I want to be an entrepreneur. And at that point of time, I felt like the financial industry in Malaysia was very backwards, and I
Yeah.
wanted to go to Singapore. So I went to Singapore, became a financial advisor, spent 4 years there, first with HSBC, and then later on as an independent advisor. And then I noticed one thing is when I was a financial advisor, I felt like the financial industry is not what I thought it was. I felt there was a lot of bullshit. I know this is a business Buddha, but I'm using some words.
No, you can use any word you
Oh,
want.
okay, that's good. I can
not
be
censored,
myself.
not censored.
So let's make this raw, right?
Yeah.
So I realized that most of the time, most of these guys, what they wanted us to do was just to chase sales, and very often it may not work in the favor of customers.
Yeah.
I felt that the financial
So you were
industry-
selling things that didn't serve the customer, like
I felt like I wasn't serving them at the best.
Yeah.
Because I was doing insurance, I was doing unit trust, I was doing will and trust. So I had a bit of understanding of the entire wealth management industry, whether from protection to investment to even distribution. Okay. So I realized one thing is in this industry, it was designed in a way where it complicates stuff.
Yeah.
So that most of the people will hand their money to the financial advisors who they thought would be consulting them, but end up calling and insulting them.
no.
Yeah, so I realized that's not what I want to be. That's not the place I want to be. I'm not saying that insurance and investments are bad. I still buy insurance, but I'll buy term and I invest the rest. But a financial advisor will not tell you to buy term and invest the rest, because when you buy term insurance, it's the lowest commission.
Yeah.
They will not hit their MDRT.
And then they sell you something that you don't need, right?
They will definitely sell you the one with the highest commission. And I didn't agree with the model, how it works.
Yes.
I felt like, why are insurance agents or financial advisors being measured by how much commission they make? They should be measured by how much sum assured they bring to their clients. So I had a lot of debate with my manager, and as you can see, I'm a very opinionated person.
Yes.
So my leader hated me and I left. So at a point of time, because I was an avid learner, I read a lot of Robert Kiyosaki's book, listened to some of these economists, Richard Duncan, Mike Maloney, Jim Rickards,
Yeah.
and I thought that, hey, gold and silver is the insurance of wealth. Bought some gold and silver myself, and at a point of time, I was one of those early guys who started doing blogging. So when
When was it? Friendster era or MySpace?
I started with Friendster, then this was the early days of
This is how you know you're old.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, you have this thing called Blogspot.
Yeah, Blogspot.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Then I created my own WordPress. I had a bit of programming language, did my own WordPress. So I used to blog a lot about my learnings.
Yes.
And I had a huge following in gold and silver. So it was at a point of time when I said, hey, why not I get into the gold and silver business? Why not, since I have people keep asking me where to buy gold and silver, where do you buy?
Yeah.
So I went to the Mint. So the Mint is the factory that produces gold and
Yes.
silver. And I said, I want silver because you can get gold anywhere in Malaysia,
Yeah.
in jewelries, even with the banks, but you could not get silver bar.
Yes.
And because of Google SEO, I understood Google SEO, I bought the domain name silvermalaysia.com.
Yeah.
So there was nothing branding about it. It was simply because of Google SEO.
Yeah.
And I built a brand on silvermalaysia.com and managed to build a business. However, so the lesson I learned from that, why did I quit? Was because I grew the business. I got into silvermalaysia.com when silver price was $15. And in a span of 6 months, the price of silver from $15 went up to $49.
Yeah.
And I was seen as God. I was all across media. I never ever paid for a media interview before, but I was in media every single week, whether it's in Malaysia, The Star, or even in Vietnam, Korea, or even Bloomberg. They were interviewing me about silver. But later on, why did I have to stop? Is simply because silver price plunged from $50, $49, it plunged all the way to 20 over dollars, and then it just went down all the way 10 over dollars. And there's no way I can sell a silver bar to someone if I know that the cycle is over.
Yeah.
So I knew that I had to pivot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I made a mistake with that brand. I called that company silvermalaysia.com. I
Oh,
could
so
not
the
sell
whole thing was
anything
built
else.
on one asset now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw my competitors were selling silver jewelries,
Yeah.
but I thought that was pretty crap because people get into the silver bar for investment. If
Yeah.
they want to buy jewelries, they would have went to other jewelry shops, right? So I didn't buy that idea. So I just decided I called quits. I called one of my competitor. I said, will you want to take over my brand, take over my customer? And he was like, why? Yeah, I said, I give you lah. As long as you take out my customer lah. Yeah.
So does the company still exist today, or is it like gone already?
Gone, totally gone.
Totally gone.
Yep, I gave my database, everything to a competitor of mine and told all my customers, hey,
Wow.
in time to come, if you buy silver, buy from this guy.
Okay.
He wants to stay in this industry. So yeah, go to him.
Okay, so that was the first one.
Yep.
Then what was the second one? And then like, okay, so it looks like the first one is you realized that the trend did not work, and then that was the mistake.
Yep.
What about the second one?
The second one was crude oil. So what happened was I actually had a friend. I met this guy. This guy was a very successful entrepreneur
Yes.
in Singapore. He was one of those guys who introduced the entire concept of land banking in Asia.
Yeah.
And at that point of time, he was telling me, hey, he said, I'm going to raise funds to buy oil fields. And because coincidentally, at that point of time, Robert Kiyosaki was saying, hey, guys, I'm buying into oil fields in Texas. And I said, I'm interested. So because I was such a follower of Robert at the point of time, I kind of mimic him because I always believe that success leaves clues.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like an idol at the point of time in my 20s. So when he wanted to go into crude oil, this guy told me he's getting into crude oil. I said, let me partner with you for the Malaysian market. And
So basically, it's like so people invest to buy a piece of land that the land would then produce oil for the investors.
it's supposed to be that way, but
Yeah.
they structure it in a way where it's a invoice financing model,
Yeah.
which means the oil field will produce the oil field will sell the oil to the big oil giants, whether it's BP and Shell, and then the payment terms will usually come 90 days or 180 days later. So you can buy the invoice, and then later on, when Shell or BP
They buy the thing.
they pay you back,
Okay.
right? When they pay you back the money, then you get a cut of that profit.
Yes, I was an investor.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
yeah.
so then what happened?
I was there for 3 years. I did that for 3 years. Managed to grow the business to around 100 mil
Yeah.
annual revenue.
Yeah, and it was very big back then.
was
Like it was very
Yeah.
huge. And then
It was big. I had around 150 salespeople. I had 2 offices in Mount Kiara. I was all over the world because I was winning awards, all these alternative investments of the
yes,
year.
yes, yes.
Uh, yep, I was making good money. But what happened later on is one day, I still remember I was turning 30 at that point of time. It's like 2 weeks before I turned 30. One day, my partner called me, my business partner in Malaysia, who was my ex-girlfriend at that point of time, called me, and she said, John, they just filed Chapter 11. And I was like, no way. So Chapter 11 means Bankruptcy Protection Act. And I said, no way.
The US entity or
The Canadian entity. So we were
Canadian-
raising funds, investing to a Canadian company. And I said, no way. I said, no way. We just met the CEO 2 weeks ago in KL. And he was giving me assurance that they're going to expand further. And he was telling me everything was great. I said, how is it possible that they're going to file bankruptcy protection? We just met them 2 weeks ago. And he said, go and log on to this website in Canada. When I logged on, my heart sank. I was like, what the F just happened? We must be conned. What happened? He just told me everything is okay. And we had all these auditors, Deloitte, we had oil partners like Schlumberger, and we had valuers like Spool. These are all big corporations. I said, this can't be a scam. No way. I said, if this is a scam, it's a very smart scam. I said, maybe someone inside must have siphoned the money out. So at the point of time, I was still at the stage where I was thinking, who is that person who siphoned the money out and destroyed everything? So that was actually the toughest time of my life in business. I spent the next few years investigating and figuring out what's happening. And while doing so, of course, there were a lot of complaints from investors. We had thousands of investors.
yeah, you got a lot of hate for that.
A lot of
Like,
haters.
like people were trying to hang you.
Exactly. Everyone was
Like, where's my money? Give me back my money.
exactly. And I told them, if I took your money, I would have run away, right? I won't be here facing you. So I was one of the directors in Malaysia. And the money, every time we received the funds will always go to Singapore and they will always go to Canada. And we had all these proof of money trails. So there's no way I'm taking any single cent over here. So we spent the next few years figuring out what happened. And then later on, it actually took us 6 years. It took us 6 years.
6 years.
6 years.
So did you find any court cases or it was just an investigation?
On the 6th year, we went to court case.
Okay.
So the 6th year was actually in 2020. It was COVID. So during COVID, well, everyone was locked down in Malaysia. There was around a month when I was actually in Singapore.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone was asking me, how come you can fly? Who are you? I said, because I'm having a
Court case.
court case in the High Court.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very bad. So I went there. We went to the court case. And surprisingly, we actually lost. We actually lost the case. We appealed. And then we fought again. And then that whole appeal process was so tough. So what happened was they said that I was trying to sue the Singapore principal, and Singapore principal is saying that the Canadian took the money. However, we had proof that they were actually passing money to each other, right? There were money trails. So that's why I went after the Singaporean first. However, the Singapore court says that this guy is innocent and the Canadian is the villain. We appealed, and then we continued fighting. But towards the end, I actually gave up because I was financially dry. We were all
How much do you
Right.
how much do you throw in just to fight the court case?
okay. 2 things in terms of my collateral damage, right? Personal funds with my family is 3 million ringgit.
Yeah.
Court case in Singapore, that one I crowdfunded. So went to all the investors and say who wants in to fight this court case
Yeah.
together. That one we spent 2 mil sing.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like this money that people can retire or start a business already.
Exactly. So that was definitely the toughest time of my life because it's not only draining financially. When you're fighting a court case, you can't do any business.
Yes.
The rest of the business I was trying to do at that point of time, it couldn't work simply because I was so tied up with this court case. So my financial was actually burning, and it's also very mentally and emotionally burned.
What was toughest for you during those times? Like, who like what was the moment that you sometimes like curse at the skies and then go like, why did this happen to me?
I think the toughest was to face my friends and family.
Yeah.
There was a lot of shame, there was a lot of guilt. Of course, most of them are telling me, hey, I don't blame you, this shit happens. But you know, when your friends who trust you so much, the thing is, when friends trust you so much when they invest, they don't really know what they're investing.
Yes, yes, agree.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when shit happens, it's so hard to explain to them.
Yeah.
You have to explain to them the whole structure, and they'll be like, "Huh? Never mind lah. Yeah, you just let me know.
Just take my money.
You just let me know what to do lah." Right? And then family. Family is another thing. So I had a lot of relatives who actually invested as well, and couldn't face them during Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
So I would say is that shame, that guilt, during Chinese New Year. But that also kept me alive. That was what actually kept me alive to fight, because I felt like I needed to clear my conscious, not conscious, sorry, but my innocence,
That you did everything you can.
that I'm trying everything I can. So that actually kept me alive as well, because I felt like I'm not fighting alone for myself. I'm actually fighting alone my friends, family. I'm fighting alone for my team members. I had 150 sales agents, and I had total of I think 1,000 plus clients. I felt like I'm not doing this for myself, and I always believe in one thing: is a person's true character is not shown in times of good, right? We can have all these awards and party together. We go for retreats, but then I feel like the the true character of a person is shown when times are bad. And I felt like that was a time I really needed to step up.
Yes.
So if you ask me, did I ask myself why the hell that this happened to me? Yes, of course I did. And at the point of time, I still remember I was single. And I was living in one studio apartment in Monkera,
Yeah.
400 over square feet. Not much budget to rent uh, a big unit anymore. Small, cramped, and I still remember I saw this Robert Kiyosaki, not Tony Robbins video, and the video started with, "What if life doesn't happen to you, but happens for you?" And then I just cried. Yeah, and then I was like, "Yeah, what if life is happening for me?" So I started asking myself, what if this is a gift? What is the lesson I have to learn here? And it got me into this mindset where, what am I learning here?
And then I think around that point, there's also where I also know Jonathan, where he wasn't very religious before. And then I think it was during that point when you started going back to church again. Is it the same timeline? Like,
Absolutely, I think
and it should tell me why. Like, because before I know, like, sometimes you're the kind of Christian that is like, sometimes I go, sometimes I don't go. But then after doing that time, I remember you posted a lot about God and how God or Jesus has helped you. So tell me more about that. Like, why did you went there?
why did I go there?
Like, what do you find?
Yeah, I think at the point of time, I was always in my head, you know, what am I learning here? What can I do here? Every day is about waking up and figuring out how do I put out the fire? How do I handle customers' complaints, investors' complaints? How do I get into all these discussions with lawyers? And then you have this investigation group as well that's investigating all this. Every day was putting out fire. It was very tiring, because all these are nothing is about growth.
Yeah.
I'm such a growth guy, right? I was not growing, and I was like going backwards.
Yes.
So I still remember I met, so at the point of time I attended a lot of talks. You know, you attend a lot of seminars, webinars, and all these events, especially when you're lost. So I attended a lot of these talks. Back then there wasn't so many podcasts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So one day I met this guy, 1 year older than me, just listed his company. I was very impressed, because he went up on stage and he was like saying, he said, if I'm not allowed to talk about God, I will not speak. So please allow me to speak about my God while I'm speaking about my success. Because he said, my success is owed to God. I was like, wow,
Oh,
this guy is 1 year older than me. I was like, wow, that's a very huge shift of perspective for me. So after that event, I went to him. I said, can I get your phone number? I would love to have a coffee with you. And he was like, sure. And then we went for coffee. We actually had dinner at Sunway Pyramid, I still remember. And during that dinner, I actually shared with him, I said, if you were me, what would you do? You know, I'm in such a terrible
and
shape.
that was when all the court cases, everything was going
Yeah,
on. Okay.
yeah, doing all the court case, and he was telling me, you know, he said, John, I think right now you just pray. Yeah, he said, go to church. So I asked him which church you go to. And he told me this church called Every Nation. And then that weekend I actually went to the church and got to, I don't know what happened was I got really connected to that pastor's message. And the pastor's message was about surrendering. And that was also another moment that I broke down in church. Of course, thank God I was alone. So I was crying alone. And then I actually like, yeah, surrender. I said, you know, God, if this is what I have to go through, I'll go through. I only pray for you to give me strength and wisdom to go through this. So since then, and I started to become more spiritual. I won't call myself religious because I'm still not a guy who goes to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
But I would say that I'm more spiritual in terms of looking into how do I connect with myself being, and it's a lot about values to me, right? So so that was the start of how everything started to shift.
I think there's a beautiful quote I just saw on TikTok. It says this: you cannot have worry and hope existing at the same time.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, what they do is they worry, and when you worry, you're fearing about something. We're afraid about the future. But when you pray, or when you surrender yourself to a higher power, then that's where you find hope. And both things cannot exist at the same time.
Yep.
And I think it's very beautiful that you can find that.
Yep.
So speaking about this, so we're a bit into spiritual. I know you recently got married.
Yeah.
Okay, I was there. Congratulations. So
Thanks for being there.
so tell us a bit about your relationship journey. I know you had one person that you've been with this person for quite a while, and then what happened, and then how do you even find the lucky one today?
I guess it's also a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Just like business, you gotta try something and then you fail and then you realize this is not what I want. Then you start to try something else. In relationship, it's the same. So in my 20s, I had this girlfriend who became my business partner. We started off, both of us were very broke. And we managed to grow the business, like I mentioned to you, 100 mil annual revenue. However, at the point of time, what happened was I was very young. I was very playful. Hang out with some friends who brought me to party. The thing about me is this: I only started drinking when I was 27 years old.
Yes.
Before that,
You're not a drinker.
I can't drink, right? I never go to clubs. So, and at the point of time when I was like 29, had a bit of money, a bit of fame, had a lot of power. I felt like I was top of the world, became egoistic, started to explore the nightlife. It completely destroyed that relationship. Okay, and I think the relationship was also destroyed because we started off in a relationship, and then it's like a short period of time that we started business. So the entire relationship was business.
There wasn't
It
a
was
lot of
business.
It was more
Yeah.
business partner.
Yeah, it was a business relationship with the identity of boyfriend and girlfriend, but there was no intimacy, right? So when I started exploring the nightlife, I guess it was also a place for me to escape, knowing that there's a part of me that wasn't whole. So, cut the long story short, she broke off me. I was okay. And then after that, got into another relationship. And then after that, the relationship also ended. Went into another relationship, which also ended. But the girlfriend before my current wife, that relationship ended in a way where I was in huge debts. Huge debts.
Why? Because you had to impress her.
A few reasons. I think, first of all, COVID came. But you see, even when COVID comes, all this storm in business comes, if the person beside you is toxic and sucks so much energy from you, there's no way you can fight the battle.
Yeah.
You know, in business, as an entrepreneur, I always believe that your partner is very important. If you have a partner who gives you war at home and you're facing war every single day in the business world, there's no way you can fight at home. If you fight at home, you fight the war at home, you have no energy to fight in business.
So you felt every time you went home, it wasn't peace, but it was a war.
And the problem was working from home.
Yeah.
My home was a war. It was like a war with a 2 times leverage.
Yeah.
right?
So war and the computer screen, war when you turn your back and look at your
Yeah,
girlfriend. Okay.
yeah. So ended that relationship, and after that, met my current wife. Very interestingly, the girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, before this wife, is the time I broke up. I still remember my friends asked me, "Are you sad? Are you okay? Why you look so okay?" I said, "Bro, I'm so happy. I'm feeling so relieved."
That finally ended.
Yeah, I said I'm so happy. I never had a breakup so happy before. Yeah, I'm feeling so relieved. The only thing is I'm broke right now. I'm so broke right now. I'm so in so much debts because when I was with her, she, of course, she material world, all about that.
Bags.
Spent so much money that I didn't have. I swipe card, I burst my credit card budgets, that limit. So I was in so much debts, personal debts, credit card debts. So I told my friend, I said I'm gonna take the next 6 months, really focus on clearing my debts. That's the first priority. I'm not gonna date. And then this friend, our common friend Melvin So, asked me, so if you have an ideal girl, who would that be? I said, yeah. If an ideal girl, I said no. I wrote down a list of seven checklists that a girl must have, right? Must be supportive, must be driven, must have ambition to work on herself, not just taking money from the man. Had this list, and then I said, I don't know anyone, but I said on Instagram, there's this girl who I met her 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Uh, that time I was in a relationship, and I thought she's very smart. I look at her Instagram, look ambitious, although we all know that everything on Instagram is not real,
Yes.
right? Everyone will show their best. But I said that she's always on the move, right? And I felt like when I met her the first time around, she had the right values. So what happened was, so Melvin asked me, who's that girl? So I showed him. And Melvin was like, wow, this girl, okay. Melvin's first thought was, Miss Malaysia. Are you sure? Yeah, then I said, yeah. I said, yeah, usually I don't go for things like that. But when I met her, I was actually quite impressed. Yeah, I felt that she was not a dumb blonde. Yeah. So later on, after meeting Melvin, I actually met our common friend as well, David.
David Lai. Yeah.
So I asked David, hey, why when I was single, you never introduced me a girl like that? Yeah. And what David did was he immediately arranged a date.
Immediately after that.
Immediately arranged a date. And the weekend I went out with my wife. Her name is Yvonne. Went out for a date. And it was so embarrassing because I couldn't even pay for the meal.
Wow.
Because my credit card was burst. It's burst already, right? No cash. Couldn't even pay for the meal. And David even had to come in and pay for the meal for me. It was that bad. And I was very honest to Yvonne from day one that I'm in the worst time of my life right now. Let's get to know each other first. Let's take it slow, Don't rush. And I said, if you want to continue to go out there and explore, yeah, I totally understand. I will understand. However, 3 weeks later, we were together.
What shifted? Like what shifted for? I know like for you it's like okay, she makes your checklist, but what made her make the jump?
What made her make a jump? I think you gotta invite her for
yeah,
another
your guess,
podcast.
your guess. That will be part 2, but your guess.
My guess, she told me this. So back then she told me this. She said, a person with good values and a person who is willing to bite the bullet and suffer, sacrifice for hard work, will never starve. That's her mindset, right?
Yeah.
Someone who have good values and someone who is willing to put in the hard work will never starve.
So I'm guessing that's you.
Yeah, and she said, I believe in your values. I look at the way you work. And she told me this. She said, I've never seen anyone in my life that have work ethics like yours. Yeah. And she said, you're probably the most hardworking person I've ever seen. So I worked very hard for 6 months. Then after that, I managed to clear my debts.
So I remember you made a promise to her. What was that promise? And then how do you make sure you fulfill to that promise? Was it a lot of pressure, or was it very easy because she was there by your side? Like, how was it?
It wasn't easy. I'll be very honest, it wasn't easy because she came from a environment where most of her friends will marry either a second gen or someone who is extremely rich.
Yeah.
And if we just go out for normal hangouts, is to me that was a huge it was a strain to my budget, especially I was at the stage of trying to pay off my debts, right? So it wasn't easy at all. And her friends will always say, "Hey, why aren't your boyfriend hanging out with us?" Because her friends will marry second gen who they just what they do is go gym every single day and go drinking after that.
Yeah.
Right? And they can drink for 6 hours a day. And then when she hangs out with them and they will say, "Where's your boyfriend? Where's your boyfriend?" Then she say, "My boyfriend is working." And they will say like, why your boyfriend have to work? Yeah. Yeah. So it's like the kind of
Yeah,
environment.
that kind of environment.
She did speak to me, and I said, "Yeah, you know, since day one, I've been totally transparent with you."
Yeah.
I said, "This is what I have to go through. I have no time to talk about Malaysian politics with your friends. Yeah, eh, go drinking and see who can drink more whiskey that night."
Yeah. And what was the promise you made to her?
The promise I made to her was this: I said, "Give me 6 months. Give me 6 months. Let me clear my debts." Right?
Do you had the answers back then? Like when you said, "Give me 6 months, I'm gonna clear my debt." Do you know how, or
No.
like you had no freaking clue? You
I
just
had no freaking clue.
how you even came to the 6 months? Pull
It
out
was
your
just a
butt.
target I set for myself.
Ah, okay, great.
Yeah. It was just a target I set for myself. I said, think this number, it was a mid six figures. I said, not mid six figures. It was a quarter million actually.
Yeah,
It was quarter million. I said, yeah, I think I can do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was running two business. One of them was giving me a bit of cash flow, a bit. And the other one that not really not much. Then I did a lot of things. I did a lot of things on the side, helping friends to strike deals and then earning commission. Then after that, I was doing trading in crypto.
Yeah.
So I spotted an opportunity in crypto where the market was crashing. So I was shorting the market all the way, making more money in crypto as well. Yep, and then I managed to clear everything in 6 months.
Nice. And then what happened after the 6 months?
Then I told her, give me 2 years. Give me 2 years before we settle down. So at the point of time, I was pretty clear that she was the one I want to marry, because
How do you know she was the one you want to marry?
because
Like, I think a lot of a lot of people who are like entrepreneurs that they're very afraid of finding the one because what if this is not the one? So how do you know she was the one?
Yeah.
At least for you.
one thing about me is I believe when it comes to finding the one, let me first put a definition into finding the one. I firmly believe finding the one, this person is going to be with you for the rest of your life, is more important than the business that you choose. Yeah. It's as important as the business that you're about to choose. It's most as important as the business that you choose. So if there's one thing about me is I believe never settle. Yeah. Because if you just because you know when I was close to 40 years old, most of my relatives would say, just choose someone. And I would say, just choose someone. And how's your marriage been? You guys are quarreling. You guys are having so many problems. You guys are not sleeping together. And who are you to give me any wedding advice, any marriage advice? So I never listened to any of my relatives or even my mom. Yeah, say just choose someone you're comfortable with. It's okay. I always feel like you got to choose the one. You have to be very selective. You have to. It's okay to wait. And for me, it's like being with Yvonne. She gave me the space. She gave me the support. She made me believe in myself. And I thought that was very important. And because of that energy, I was able to fight the war. I was able to do what I thought was very tough, near impossible. I managed to do it. And she was there all the way. And I felt like she's the one. She supported me all the way. And as entrepreneurs, especially, I think the person you choose is very important because they have to bear with the understanding that you have no weekends at times. Sometimes you may work until 2 a.m. When at night before she wants to sleep, she want to have that phone call with you. Tell her I can't talk now. And they have to understand that. I think not many girls can understand that.
And what was a moment in the relationship that you knew she understood you?
At one point of time, I remember I couldn't pay my bills on my credit card, and she was looking at me very upset, and she was asking what happened. She facing some financial stress. She said, "Do you still? Is there someone chasing you for money?" I said, "Yeah." And then she just deposited like, I think 10K to me. Yeah, that was wow. She didn't come from a very rich family. She's self-made as well. So I was like, wow. Then right after I get my payment, I think 3 days later I faster transfer back to her because that's the last thing I want, right?
Yeah.
To owe a girlfriend who you just met, then you become the red flag.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But how did you? Okay, so you said never settle, right?
Yeah.
Like there are people who are like they're approaching 35. That in your case and Yvonne's case, they're almost 40 already, and then like my time is running out. I'm gonna be 45 or 50. So where do you balance that, like the biological clock versus like don't settle because happiness is more important? How did you balance it?
So-
At least with her.
Yep. I have two answers for this. The first thing is I was actually okay to be single all the way until I find the one. Yeah, so I was pretty okay with that. And the second thing is when I say never settle, I think it's also about looking inwards. At the point of time when before I met Yvonne, when I just broke up, I still remember my list. I said 7 things, my checklist of that 7 women. I also have a checklist for myself. The checklist for myself was 7 things that I must be in order to attract this woman. And one of it was financial independence. Okay, so emotional intelligence, being able to be there for
Yes.
the lady. So I actually had a list for myself as well. So I think when I use the word never settle, I'm using it on the person that I'm looking for. But first foremost, I'm using it on myself.
Yeah, because a lot of people like to point. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to settle for the guy, but then the girl or the guy never works on themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know one thing. This to look for that person is tough. But to work on yourself, that 7 lists that I had
It's even tougher.
is easy actually because I could control.
Ah,
I could control. I could control what I eat. I could control my exercise.
Yes,
I
yes.
control my work ethics. I could control not hanging out with friends, but making sure that I go out there and get more side hustles to make more money. I felt that was easier. So I felt like if I could work on myself, never settle, set the right standards, then I'll be able to attract a lady of that standard.
yeah. And one last thing on relationships before we jump back to business is before you guys got married. You guys went to a Catholic church, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, for marriage counseling, and then you had to downgrade into the bed. What was the biggest lesson for you? Because I still remember seeing you and her posting on Insta story, and it felt like suffering, but then it felt like a blessing. What made you want to do that?
My mom
Okay,
have been utterly raw because
so it's not one of you guys wanted to go to the marriage counseling thing.
so that is called a marriage counseling course.
Yes,
So I'm a born Catholic,
yes,
but today I go to a Christian church.
yes.
If given a choice, I will want to go to a Christian marriage counseling
Yes.
course. And that was agreed upon with Yvonne even before we became a
Together.
couple.
Yes.
So when we were just exploring,
Yeah.
we already talked about this, that she asked if even we are not married, if we are in a relationship, will you be open to go for a marriage counseling course? I said, yeah, I'm in for that because I attend a lot of courses. We are like seminar addicts, right?
junkies, seminar
Seminar
junkies,
junkies,
like-
right? I attend relationship course in Taiwan. I attend
Yeah.
relationship course in Australia with Tony Robbins, Date with Destiny.
Yes.
I love all this. And I said, I am in. The problem was, my mom wants me to get married in a Catholic church.
Okay.
And to her, that's her wish. It's like a must. It's not really a wish, it was more of a must.
A demand.
A demand. So I agreed, and I went there, I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is like a national service boot camp, or probably worse. Yeah.
Like an army camp, right?
It was like an army
Like
camp.
bed bunks, and then like the blanket was like old.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. The place you pee and the place you shower is the same. Yeah.
So then how was it like for both of you to go through that?
Both of us, for us, it was more like, okay, we are here. Did I make a big fuss about it? I did. To be very honest, I did. I went to the priest. I was like, what the hell? What the hell? Why are you punishing me for getting married? He was shocked. He was like, why is this guy so
Yeah.
confrontational? And he said, Jonathan, you sit through for 3 days, have an open mind, open heart. I said, I have an open mind, open heart, but I didn't expect it to be like this, right? And I say, okay, well, I can't do anything. Is there anything I can do? He said, no, you got to sit this through, otherwise you can't get married in the Catholic Church.
Oh,
I
it's
said,
a must for
it's a
Catholic.
must.
Okay.
It's a must. Otherwise, you can't get married in the Catholic Church. I sat through all 3 days, and at the end of 3 days, I became so close to this. He's not a priest; he's a deacon.
Yeah.
Right. A deacon is like a Catholic priest who can get married.
Yes, yes.
So I became so close to him because we had so much conversations during the 3 days. Because I was there really to learn. I was there to challenge his thoughts. I was there to be open-minded as well, and to say, yeah, actually this makes sense. Yeah, and then we had a lot of conversations throughout the 3 days. I was probably the most active student in class.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after 3 days, I actually went to him. I said, you know what, you taught us very good. I said, anyone who plans to get married or even don't plan to get married, they should go for a marriage counseling course. And I totally endorse this. But I then told him, I said, I'm also a trainer. What I do is I train thousands of people. And you got to understand content in context. Your content is good, your context is horrible. Uh, People can't absorb it. So I told him, you got to wear your context, man.
Which is his dormitory
Your
and the bed, the
dormitories,
train.
yeah, they are still using the very old computer.
Yeah.
They're still figuring out how to use the
Well,
PowerPoint.
what was one lesson from that whole thing that like stood with you until now? For maybe you or Yvonne?
For us, is being able to have difficult conversations.
Difficult conversation.
In that course, it forces you to have a lot of difficult conversations.
What's an example?
Example, like mother-in-laws, right? Father-in-laws,
Who comes first? Is it?
like doing, what if I'm not happy with your mother?
Ah.
Yeah, how do we handle that?
What do you think about couples who think it's okay to not have the difficult conversation? Because
That-
there's a lot of couples that are married, and then when you bring something up like this, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, then one side gets triggered. Why don't you love my family? Why can't you embrace me? So what's your lesson on this?
I'm gonna be a bit more generalized here. For most guys, they'll be like, it's okay. But for most girls, is they will find another fault to bite on you
Yeah.
when that is not the real problem, but the real problem is what is keeping inside.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna continue to have a lot of arguments and quarrels, right? So I feel like when you're not able to have difficult conversations like this, the lady will always find other problems. So sometimes when my friends who are entrepreneurs come to me and they tell me I have a problem with my wife and all, and I'll always tell them this is not the real problem.
Mm.
Yeah, this is not the real problem.
There's always
I
something.
said there's no way your wife is so angry because of this problem. My question is, what did you do yesterday or the day before or last week that you did not solve?
Yeah.
Go and find that problem.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about business now. So when you pivoted and then now you're doing future trends, right? So you guys are in the crypto industry. Let's talk a bit about how you entered this. You are primarily English speaking. You entered a market. Two things I noticed. First, you partnered with Desmond,
Yep.
your partner. So what do you look for in a partner, and what made both of you, who are primary English speaking people, entered the Chinese market and build a brand inside the Chinese market?
The good thing about partnering with Desmond is this is not my first business really. So I've been through a lot of failures.
Yeah, so you learn from them.
Right,
So what
so-
do you look for? Like
Yeah.
what do you see in Desmond that was different from the oil scandal, from everything else you have done?
When I went into this partnership with Desmond,
Yeah,
I told him we will not start a company.
yeah.
Let's treat this as a project.
So you treat it as a
We
project.
treated it as a project. And I said, let's just park everything under your company. Do you have a Sendirian Berhad that you're not using right now? Let's just park it under your Sendirian Berhad. And let's test this relationship. The moment we hit, I forgot what was the amount. I said the moment we hit this revenue, we discuss again. Do we want to have this project partnership basis, or do you want to explore something deeper? And it took us around 4 months, I think. 4 months later, we hit that revenue. We sat down together and we said, okay, let's start a company first, right? And then we just see how it goes for the next 1 to 2 years. And then we explored, we started working together. After 1 to 2 years, actually around 1 year plus, we felt very comfortable with each other. And then we start saying, hey, let's just cut off everything that we are doing. So I actually told him, so he was running a digital marketing agency at that point of time. I was still having Owner Circle, another company, business training, business coaching program. I said, let's work towards we being able to cut off everything else and just focus and zoom in on this and be what you always use the word category king.
Yeah.
Let's be the category king in this. And we gave ourselves, I think, close to a year. So we slowly phase out whatever we were doing. I wanted to end my partnership in Owner Circle at a high. So that 1 year I also worked very hard. And that was a 1 year where I just met Yvonne, by the way. So then after that, that 1 year was up. We both ended relationship on
The business ratio.
the business relationship on the other stuff we are doing, and then we just zoom in on future trends. So it was a gradual relationship.
But what do you saw in Desmond? Because usually a relationship is like one person compliments another. So what did he compliment you, or what do you, or was it just like, I just like you as a person, let's see how we can work together?
I didn't even like him as a person to begin with.
Yeah.
At the
Desmond
beginning, right? You know Desmond.
Yeah,
right?
he's a bit arrogant.
Yeah. At the beginning, I didn't like him, but I thought this boy was very smart. This
Yeah.
guy is very smart. Let's came out for drinks, came out and talked. Okay, smart guy.
So it's more of just like he's smart, and then like let's see if we can work something
Yeah.
out.
But because he was very arrogant at the beginning, I
Yeah.
didn't like him. And then later on, called me, hey John, let's test out some stuff. Okay, it's just testing, right? Okay, let's test it out. Then after that, do you want to test out this? He came to my house for drinks. We said, we want to test out this crypto education community thing. Say it's just a test, it's okay. So that's why he's a guy where at the beginning you won't like him, but the more you know him, you will love him.
Yes.
Yeah. So later on, I realized that this guy is always there. He has amazing work ethics. I think I'm a very hard worker. I think he works harder than me sometimes, or most of the time. And a lot of time people always think that, hey, those guys who are doing digital marketing, they're always there to suck up cash, right? Just take as much as possible. But when we were really building the business, we were focusing a lot on sustainability. Because at my age, I'm no longer in my 20s, right? So in my 20s was more about revenue growth, right? Just grow, profitability, profit margin. But the older you become, that metrics will shift. In the past was about revenue growth. It was about how much profit we earn by the end of the year. But the older we become, it was more about client retention. It was more about sustainability. And he was aligned with me on that. So we had a good mix of growth plus sustainability. So I realized that fits in so well. And whenever, let's say, I'm not around, he's there for me. Whenever he's not around, I'm there for him. I felt that I really love this partnership. So if you ask me, do our strengths complement each other? I don't even know who's the CEO. There is no CEO, there's no COO. Because we both do everything together. Yeah. So this is a very unique partnership where we treat this like a project, and all our teams treat all the work that they are doing as a project as well. And we kind of coexist very well right now.
Wow. And so which then leads us to the next thing. It's like most people start where the strongest at. You start where you're the weakest at, which is language, right? So you guys started Future Trends, and Future Trends, the first few events were in the Chinese market. And you guys are bananas. I remember when I also know you personally, you can't speak Chinese for the life of you. But what made you start there? Like, what made both of you say, let's do the Mandarin market first? And then how were you able to build this into a category king where Future Trends is a big force in the crypto training space in the Mandarin market? where even I think Bybit or Coinbase bought over your YouTube channel.
No, not Coinbase, not
Is it,
Bybit.
what company was it?
It was Coinbureau.
Oh, Cambio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But you build a channel that somebody acquired. You have a huge following in the Mandarin market. So like how? Why? What's behind this?
So the reason why we went to Chinese market was I realized that so this is also a lesson I learned through entrepreneurship. A lot of people they love what they do and then they say because of this is what I love to do, this is what I'm very good at, this is my ikigai, then I will start a business based on my ikigai. But you know what? The market doesn't give a fuck about your ikigai,
Yes.
right? So I learned one thing is the reason why certain businesses can grow big, they can grow fast, is because there's an underserved market and the total addressable market is huge enough. So when we analyze the market, can we do the English market? We will compete against the Americans, we will compete against the Europeans,
Yes.
because everything is virtual. No way, we don't think we can compete against them. But then we saw the Chinese market in Malaysia at that point of time, it was full of bullshit. The Chinese market at the point of time, we felt that they were naive, they were innocent, and that's why most of the scams in crypto happen in the Chinese market. And we felt that, hey, this is a market that has a lot of pain, and the Chinese market in Malaysia is bigger than the English market in Malaysia. And we said that for the effort that we are putting in, this market is 3 times larger. Now, the problem is we can't speak Chinese.
Yeah. So how
Yeah.
do you overcome that?
I still remember the first day I did my preview webinar. I had all my notes on my iPad. All the we call it Han Yu Pinyin. Right? You have your English word,
The
and then your Chinese
pronunciations,
word. Yeah. Pronounce everything. Because I'm doing crypto. Crypto is a very tough industry where you have to talk about technology terms and also
Yes.
financial terms.
Yes.
So I had all my terms written down here. And then what happened was the first word I had to say was industry. I don't even know how to say the word industry in Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so tough. And if you ask me, how is it possible that today we speak quite well Chinese? It was pure hustle. No Duolingo, no tuition, pure hustle.
What made you not get like help for the language?
No time and no money at that point of time. No time, more of no time. Yeah, I had to run owner circle, future trends, and then side hustles, and then just had no time. So just pure hustle.
But then what do you think contributed to future trends? Even though the Chinese didn't, what was a struggle, but what made you guys the category king in that? So what do you think were the contributing factors?
We managed to carve a very clear market for ourselves. So when we first went to this crypto education market, we thought that we would be competing against the rest of the market in Malaysia, where most of them were doing trading base. They will introduce all these AI trading bots, which are complete scams. They will introduce all these trading kind of instruments. I'm not saying all of them are scams. Some of them are good, right? And if you look at it overall, most people actually lose money in trading. Okay, and then we tried going to the market trying to educate these people first. Start to tell them what is real. I started to share my experience of being scammed. And then later on, I actually realized that no matter what, I can never touch the market that all my competitors have. And the reason is simply because most of them will show their Lambos, their Ferraris,
Yes.
their Rolls Royce,
And
their
you, and
Aston
yes,
Martin.
and then I noticed you're very humble. You don't do that.
Yeah. And then I realized no matter how I try to teach these young people, they will never listen because
Yes.
I am not wearing Balenciaga.
Okay.
I don't show my Rolls Royce. They will never listen to me. But what happened was another group of customers actually listened to me. And these are all the other trading academies, students, parents. These guys were figuring out what are my kids doing with all this crypto stuff. I also want to learn. But when they went to all their events,
Yes.
it's all about Lambos and Ferraris,
yes,
right?
yes.
And these parents will feel like, nah,
Not for
I've
me.
seen this. This is a scam. I know that this is a scam. And then when they came for future trends, they realized that, hey, this guy is different. Yeah, I like this guy. This guy talks sense. When he talks about Bitcoin, he will talk about the risk, he will talk about the reward. He won't tell me that everything will go to 100,000 or 1 million US dollar. and they actually like me. So what we did was, we at first tried to go into this market of the young people. We couldn't get it, but we accidentally built a market of the older people, which
Yeah.
is 40-year-old and above.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is something that we also teach about. It's like you need to be very clear who's your ideal target audience.
Yeah.
But even though you intended to go to one market, you actually discovered your audience that was their parents.
Yeah.
Wow. And then since then, what has contributed the most to future trends growth? Because I know like you're moving to Dubai. Why?
I already moved to Dubai. So 2 years ago, we went to Dubai.
Yes.
Simply because of few reasons. Number one was tax in Malaysia.
Yeah.
You do Facebook ads, your tax is high.
Yes.
When I moved to Dubai, my tax is so much lower. Second thing, corporate tax in Malaysia is 20%. When we first went to Dubai, it was 0%. But the moment we got our company registered, it was 9%.
Ouch.
And
But still
but it's
better.
okay. It's
Still
still
better.
okay.
Yeah.
It's so much cheaper than staying in Malaysia. Number three is personal tax. In Malaysia, I will get a personal tax of 20 over percent. In Dubai, my personal tax is 0. And another reason is Dubai, 2 years ago, we saw that this will be the next financial hub of Asia. We saw the ecosystem, we saw the policies that was being made. We knew 2 years ago actually, that Singapore will lose out to Dubai. Yeah, I know this is a big statement that I'm making, because we are probably not seeing it yet.
Yeah.
But my prediction is Dubai is the next financial hub of Asia, not Singapore.
So, but what was it hard to get Yvonne and the team and everybody to move to Dubai, because it's a big move. Like I still remember showing Instagram stories like, hey, I want to say goodbye to everybody because I'm moving there. Even though I realize you guys keep flying back, right?
Yeah, keep flying back
But
too.
what made you want to move? Like, was it a tough conversation or was it just like the money made sense? Let's go.
At first, it was more like, let's set up the company there, and we just go there every 3 months. So when we were setting up the company, on the 7th day, Desmond told me, he said, John, I'm moving to Dubai. I was laughing. Yeah. He said, you should move to Dubai too. Yeah, let's do it. I thought he was joking. And then after that, after we came back, after that first 10 days trip, right, he started looking for apartment in Dubai. And I was like, are you serious? He said, yes. He said, let me move there first for a month. If I like it, I'm going to move everything there. He went there for a month. And then after that, he told me, I'm going to bring my dog over. And I knew it. This is it.
The moment the dog goes over,
The
it's
moment
permanent.
the dog goes, everything is permanent. So he moved over. And then he was asking me, will you love to move? This is probably what the disagreement I have with Yvonne was, let's move here, permanent. Yvonne was like, what am I going to do here? I can't restart my entire career here. I have so much resources in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, then let's just transit. Let's meet in between. So sometimes I live in Dubai, sometimes I live in Malaysia.
Oh.
Yeah.
But what advice would you have for people like, when do you know in business, for the sake of the business or for financial reasons, it's a good time to move? Because a lot of people, they're not willing to move because it's like, my family's here, everything I built here. How do you make that decision?
I think most Malaysian entrepreneurs think too small. They're thinking about the Malaysian market, but let's be very honest. The Malaysian market hasn't been very good, isn't it? Now, if you're in retail, I don't blame you. You have no choice. You are geographically constrained. But in our business, if I can have everything on the internet, I run an internet business, right? Because I don't really have physical events. Everything is online. My summits are all online. My question is, why do you restrict yourself to be in Malaysia? Malaysia market is too small. Why not look global? So my view has always been this. Look at what the big companies are doing. When the Chinese companies want to go to the Western world, they always come to Malaysia first. They will test out in Malaysia first, and then only they expand overseas. Malaysia is a beautiful place as a testing ground. So to me, my first few years in Malaysia, it was a testing ground. I never wanted to be a Malaysian company. We always wanted to be a global company. but we knew Malaysia was the best place for us to test both Chinese and English, and also our team to be able to serve the Chinese and English market. So my question for anyone who don't want to move is, why are you thinking so small?
Understand. Which then leads us to the next thing. I want to ask, when you think about future trends, why do you choose to build your business based on something so volatile, right? Crypto. Let's talk a bit about
Sure.
Bitcoin and all that stuff. So NFT, for example, right? They used to say blockchain NFT, and then you had Bored Ape Yacht Club, where
Yep,
you
Bored
would
Ape
buy
Yacht
the
Club.
picture and it would worth 70 million US dollars, and then now it's like worth nothing, literally almost like just floating there.
Probably $10,000.
Yeah, $10.
Yeah.
So why do you decide to go crazy to build something in this industry where overnight Donald Trump says something, it goes up, then Donald Trump says something else and it goes down? Why? And then does it affect the confidence of your customer about, do you have sleepless nights about it?
So when I first went into the entire crypto market, I'll be very honest, I was greedy. I wanted to chase quick money.
Yes.
But after making money and losing it all, few times, I then later on realized that whether it's crypto or any innovation out there, when a new innovation starts, there's always a hype. And this hype is going to pump up the prices of all the speculative assets within this asset class.
Yes.
And then this bubble will burst and everything will dump.
Yes.
However, this is a good technology. If it is a good technology, there will be early adopters and there will be real builders. And the builders will continue building. And then later on, the mass market will start to come.
Yes.
So what happened to NFT was similar. The NFT technology started, and then there was a pump, and then after that, this hype died,
Yeah.
and then it dumped. Right now, there's early adopters. Today, we are already seeing that you can buy properties in Dubai
Yeah. With blockchain.
where your title deed is on the blockchain in the form of NFT.
Yeah.
So is it a real use case? Yes, we are starting to move into real use case. So later on, when I started to realize this, what is truly happening, I started to share all this with my members. So I share with them all these emerging technologies, whether it's blockchain, AI, or robotics, it will always go through a pump in terms of valuation, and then it will dump. Your job is to be able to sniff out the bullshit. At the pump, if you want to ride that wave, go and ride it, but you must always take profit. The problem with most people is they don't want to take profit. They hope that I can put a $1, let's say $1,000, and become $1 million, right? So they don't take profit. The price goes up, the bubble bursts, they continue holding, and then they hold on till the end. So today I learned this. When I learned this whole model, I share this with my members. I share with them, you can spot opportunities, remember to take profit, then you learn how to short the market, where the price is going to dump like crazy.
Just sell it.
Short it, short sell it. Means you make money when the price goes down. And then later on, there will be early adopters, the price will go up. So today, so NFT, it happened, right? NFT pump, dump. Now it's coming back up. Today, I'll be very honest with you. One of the things I share with my members is this. Prepare to short PopMart. Labubu, this craze is causing the share price to go up 6 times in the last 12 months. When the Labubu craze is over, the PopMart share price will dump. You short it. So today, I actually teach my members, I teach my audiences, you must be able to identify what is a hype. And you must always remember, the hype will end. Then you can make money again by shorting this hype and make money out of it. So my members at Future Trends are not blind to just follow any YouTubers and just buy any hype now. It's simply because we educate them that way.
Will you say AI right now is on the hype?
Depends on which part of the supply chain. Because if you look at the end of the supply chain, everyone is saying I have this AI app and all.
Yes.
My AI app is worth 10 million.
But it's actually a chatbot.
It's only a chatbot. I call it a layer 2 built on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Are they worth tens of millions when they don't have customers? That is a bubble. But if you go back to the original part of the supply chain, the earlier part of the supply chain,
Yes.
you talk about the guys who are producing the chips. There's not enough chips.
Yeah. Like NVIDIA.
You talk about NVIDIA, not enough chips. You talk about the guys who help NVIDIA to produce their chips, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor.
Yes. Not enough.
Not enough, right? Good profits, huge margins, 50% margins. The guys who helped them to build one of the components in the Taiwan semiconductor company, ASML,
Yeah.
also highly profitable. Highly profitable, earnings are growing. I don't think this is a bubble yet, but I'm seeing the bubble is at the end.
The end, which is all the bot part.
Yeah, the bots part.
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, arguable, arguable. Gemini, I think Google is undervalued. I am very bullish on Google right now. I think it's undervalued. But the rest, those guys who built on Google and then build an app and say I'm worth 50 million,
Yeah.
I think that's a bubble.
So let's talk a bit about the future of crypto, right? Because you've been investing in this. So what do you think is the direction right now? Like, are we still, is it because there's still a lot of resistance to adopting it, right? Even though certain governments have adopted Bitcoin, that kind of thing. But what do you think is the direction for the next 3 to 5 years for crypto?
So when it comes to crypto, there's a lot of misconception. Is it a speculative investment
Yes.
or is it a technology?
Yeah, because sometimes like I still see like there's a lot of these kind of what we call meme coins, right?
Yeah.
Like Dogecoin, all that, and people are just pumping. They make it, they sell it, and then they make a profit, and then wait for the next trend. So like, what is it? What's going on now in that world?
Okay, so I want to talk about two things.
Yeah.
Because you talk about crypto is the speculative asset. You also have the technology. I think the speculative asset is here to stay, and I'll share with you why. When I went to Singapore recently for my gathering, I met some of my Future Trust members. Asked them, what do you hold? And they tell me all these meme coins. I was like, why? Why do you hold all these meme coins? We told you guys don't hold all these meme coins. Why are you holding all these meme coins? And this is not one. This is a few. And then it hit me. These guys can't go to casino. These guys can't go to the casino in their country. So
Because-
this is the
yes,
place for them to
gamble.
gamble. They enjoy the thrill.
Mm.
So if you ask me, all these speculative cryptocurrencies are here to stay because there's always gamblers. There's always someone who managed to put $1,000 and became a millionaire. And then everyone will have hope. This is definitely here to stay. Now, let's talk about the technology side. You're asking me what is the future of crypto? The future is really here. Today, in US, you have the Genius Act. Genius Act was just passed. Now, what does that mean? It means that in time to come, we will all be trading crypto. All our currencies will be cryptocurrencies. You heard of this USDT thing?
Yes.
Where people are saying, hey, don't simply hold this USDT thing. The bill is passed. In time to come, you have stable coins in US. So I just went to Bhutan. When I tried to transfer money to my tour guide,
Okay, yeah.
it was so hard. But I asked him, do you have USDT? They said, yeah, my country works with Binance. As we are speaking right now, the Binance CEO is in Bhutan, meeting the king,
Yes.
because they work together to create the financial system in Bhutan. So we can transfer USDT so easily. And today as we speak, they just came out with a new act. Stocks are now on crypto. I can buy NVIDIA, the crypto version of NVIDIA, the tokenized version. So as a Malaysian, usually we have to wait until 9:30 p.m. to be able to trade NVIDIA stocks.
Yes.
Now, NVIDIA stock is 24/7. So I think the future is already here. We are seeing that future where we always predict that one day the real world and the crypto world will combine, will converge. It is already here. The problem is this is very new. So most people might not know it. Yeah.
So we have a lot of people who listen to this are business owners. So what would a business owner, what can we do with this information?
I think owners have to evolve. I think business owners have to evolve and understand that there will be three main industries that will be changing the way you do business. One, of course, is blockchain. Blockchain will change the way we trust each other.
Yeah.
Right? So in time to come, I don't believe we need accountants, auditors, because why do you need auditors when a smart contract can do it smarter than any of these auditors? Business owners have to understand that the AI revolution right now is bigger than the internet revolution. If back then they did not go into the internet revolution, staying purely traditional, they lose out, right? The another revolution that is coming is actually robotics. Robotics is also changing the way labor happens because robots can do it better. We are now seeing factories where they have no workers, everything is off, no lights, robots are working 24/7, no drama, no union. So I think as a business owner, you got to understand that if you don't change, it will be changed. So the question is, how do you use all these tools? So today in Future Trends, I no longer just measure revenue of the company. I measure revenue per employee. To me, that's important. When I talk to Malaysian business owners, obviously, I was being approached to get an award. They asked me, how many employees do you have? My question was, why does it matter? You say, well, how big is your office? I don't have office. I don't have office. From day one, we never had an office. And our revenue employee is considerably quite high. It's 7 figures per employees. So I think today, as a business, when you start to look into different metrics like this, you then start to look into using technology tools, whether it's blockchain or AI or robotics, to help you to automate your analysis as well, and then to help you to make better decisions. That's where your people can do more meaningful jobs. Their job is to learn. Their job is to keep up with what is the latest technology, how to serve customers better. So today in my team, I always tell them, we are a high-tech, high-touch company. We focus, you as an employee, you as a team member, you focus on what is the latest tech that you can use to help you to achieve higher level of productivity so that you can do more high-touch work. You can have more bonding sessions with your colleagues. You can meet customers, have gatherings, and listen to their problems and see how we can solve their problems.
So what's an example of high tech, high touch that you guys do in your company?
So example, right now, I have my analysts all being replaced by AI. So I built my own GPT. So at Future Trends, anyone who joins Future Trends, we have a coaching program where I teach them how I built my GPT, and then they can have access to my GPT to analyze cryptocurrencies and stocks.
So basically, it's like I want to buy, let's say, Trump coin, and then
Yeah.
I go in and then say, tell me what's the risk about this, and it will show the whole thing.
It will even tell you what's happening right now. It will also tell you what are the key things that you have to look at. It will tell you what Jonathan will look at. And not only what Jonathan will look at, it will also tell you that. So what I did was I built a GPT where it comes to stocks. I give you an example of stocks because most of your audience may not know crypto. Who are some of the greatest stock investors in the world? Is
Warren
your
Buffett,
Warren Buffett, your
Charlie
Peter
Munger,
Lynch,
yeah.
Charlie Munger, John Templeton, these guys, right?
Yes.
So I have a GPT where, because I read a lot of their books, I study a lot of their way they think, I took all the way they think and then I created into a GPT. So today you can go into my GPT called Value Growth Plus. You key in, analyze NVIDIA. It will give you the way Jonathan analyzed. And then
Warren Buffett.
it will give you the way Warren Buffett analyzed, the way Peter Lynch, the way Munger, the way John Templeton analyzed. And then it will create a table for you. And then you make your own decision. Yeah.
So when you say business owners need to use high technology, it's like, where else are they not using technology like this to maybe help duplicate how they think or how they serve their team members and the
Exactly,
customers?
exactly. I'd like to share with you 2 more case studies. Last year, when I was doing a webinar of 300 people, I had 6 people as customer support. 2 weeks ago, we had a 1,500 event. I only have 1 customer support.
And it's an AI.
1 human
Oh, one human.
monitoring the AI.
Ah.
Yeah. So last year, we managed to replace our customer support with AI. And right now, one of the things I'm also doing is we do YouTube Shorts.
Yes, I
Right.
saw the
Yeah,
one.
you
So
saw the AI version of me.
the AI version
yeah.
of me, but it looks like real.
Yeah, it looks real. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk a bit about this. Like you say, you have a lean team, right? So how do you work with your team? No office, 7-figure revenue per employee. Like how do you bond everybody together or get everybody to work together? Because I think a lot of business owners, their frustration is like, oh, my team, they cannot do this, they cannot do shit. Like, what do you look for in your team, and how do you make sure that there's the rhythm or the momentum there?
So I believe when it comes to rhythm and momentum, it's really about system and processes. So we have a model where every 3 months, everyone, no matter which part of the world you are, whether you're Dubai, whether which country you're at, we will all fly to a certain location. We will book a house, sit down 3 days together, talk about what has happened. We review what happened last quarter. We look into our goals for the next quarter. We look at what works, what doesn't work for the last quarter as well. And then all the teams will go into groups and then they will discuss. They will discuss about their priorities. And then from there we come up with a sheet to be able to track everyone for the next quarter. And
So you
then
don't work in years, you work in quarters.
I work in quarters.
Why? Because most people they do like 10-year planning,
Yep.
5-year planning, 3, 2, 1, like, but you do quarterly planning. Do you
I think the 10-year business plan is
outdated?
dead. I think a 3 years business plan is dead.
Because everything changes so fast.
It changes so fast. And especially for my industry, I can't come up with a 1-year plan because the moment Trump becomes president, everything changes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can't come up with a 3 years or 5 years business plan. So we work in quarters. And after that, then what we'll do is every single month we'll have a meeting. That one is an online meeting among all of us. Sometimes we do it physical. Those who can gather, they will gather together. Those who can't do it, they will log in online. And then every single week, the head of departments will have meetings with their department team. Desmond and I only meet once a week.
What?
We only meet once a week, only on Mondays,
Okay.
where we will review last week, we will talk about next week, and then we discuss about what is important right now. And then after that, we just get back to work, do what we have to do. Now, the thing about a model like this is this, because you need a lot of accountability.
Yes.
You need people to be very highly accountable.
Yes.
So you got to hire fast and fire fast. So we hire slow, but we fire fast now. At one point of time, we were hiring fast, and then we will fire very fast as well. But right now, we have reached a stage where my team is very stable. I will use the word stable because everyone is here for at least 6 months already. I use 6 months as a good number to say someone is with us for a long time, right? Because it's the crypto
Yeah, because
industry.
people like flip over very fast.
Yeah, especially young people flip very fast,
And
right?
then because salary is very high.
Yeah. So I have no issues paying higher salary than market rate. Because I believe if you have a person who can do a good job, he can do 3 people's job. You might as well pay him 3 people's salary. Yeah. So so the thing is, this model you have to hire slow, fire very fast. Like very fast.
Like what's red flags? 3 red flags that you can give. Like the moment they don't do this, it's like you're out.
Give you an example, this guy who just joined us, on the 3rd day he's out.
Yeah.
Because he replies WhatsApp too slow.
Just reply WhatsApp to say you're out.
He's out.
Okay.
Yeah. Another lady worked for 2 weeks, came and talked to her team lead, and she said, I have a proposal for you. We asked her, what's your proposal? She said, you are not allowed to message me from 12 to 1. We asked her, why? She said, that's my lunch time. And you guys demand reply so fast. And we asked her, okay, is that what you really want? Then she said, yeah. Then you're out. Yeah.
And would that make people seem that, like, for the other team members, is it unreasonable, or would you say it's just no? This is the culture. This is what it takes.
This is our culture, because I don't believe in that 9 to 6 idea anymore. Today, if you want to hire someone, you want to hire them on what project they're supposed to work on. I don't care what time you work until. Even if, okay, assuming if you only take 2 hours to finish this project, great, you have a lot of time. If you have to take a longer time, you got to get it done. So I don't really hire people on that 9 to 6 idea. I hire people on what project are you working on.
And then just and end of the day, it's just the outcome of the result.
Yeah, to me, outcome of result is more important because everyone is working from home.
Nice. So last question. Throughout your whole journey, right? Like you started 5 businesses, ended many relationships, found the one, now you're on the uptrend. What would you think is your biggest regret?
My biggest regret? This is so hard because I'm one of those guys who always go all out knowing that the last thing I want to do is to regret. Maybe if there's one thing is my biggest regret is not being able to spend more time with my parents because I'm the only child. So I think the years when I struggle as an entrepreneur who don't have any network or background or financial support, I had to hustle very hard, never really spend time with parents. When I made it, I will spend time with them. And then the moment I get into trouble,
Then
the
it's
whole
back.
lawsuit, stop spending time with them again. And then now I'm quite comfortable. That's where I'm spending time with them. So if you ask me, yeah, my biggest regret is I wish I could spend more time with them, and that's the reason why I'm doing it now.
And talking about this, who do you think is your role model to make Jonathan where Jonathan is today?
So many,
But
at
if you could
different
choose
phase of
one,
my life.
right
If
now in this moment in time.
if yeah, different phase of my life, I have so many gurus. I know everyone were gonna say my father, my mother. I think I love them. They taught me a lot about values, but today I always remind my parents that I found a better way to live, and they are learning the way I live right now, right? I think the best role model that I've seen over time has been Tony Robbins. Yeah,
What about it?
set high standards,
I stand.
very compassionate, has a lot of empathy for human beings, for people, uh, yet very driven, always looking to be a forefront innovator, setting the next standards on how things should be done, never settle. Yeah, I learned a lot from him. I still listen to his podcast from time to time.
Nice. Thank you so much, John.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.